Life is sweet. Let it sweep you off your feet.
Hi, it's Sally and Find Your Joy. Please do remember to like and subscribe. Today, oh my gosh, we have a new author and I'm pretty darn excited. Shawn Taylor. Okay, Shawn Taylor has, he has an amazing career in the Canadian military. He does Taylor Gaming publications. We're going to find out exactly what is that even about? What does that even mean? I can't wait to find out more. And he has a new book coming out. That's actually out now, and it is called The Beast of Skoder, The Order of the Veil, Book One, which suggests to me we have several to come. Shawn, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Allie. Glad to be here. Thank you.
I don't even know where to start. I guess the best thing is for what in the world got you writing so these are I've been looking a little bit about it. Don't have my hands on a copy yet. But it says to me when I read the first book, the ancient group that protects the Gaia from the chaotic powers of the elemental entities. Wow. So tell me a bit about the book.
Okay, so let me bring you back to when I was a little guy. I've always been really had a close affinity to the fairy world, like fae folk. I love believing in them, and I do believe in them even today. I think they're all around us, and so that is part and parcel of what the whole thing's about. So what I've taken is our world, and I've used everything that I can find from mythology, lore, legend that is all around our world, and I have built that into reality. So the Order of the Veil, the book series, will be all about different parts of the world. The first couple books are going to follow the same team, so you'll get to know the key players from those parties really well in the first 4 or 5 books. But I'm going to branch out into different places. Like I've got one that's going to happen in the Mayan Empire, another one over in Angkor Wat, one in Central Africa. So I've got them all over the place because it is an international thing. So very much tied to fairy folk and the origins of humankind and what we're supposed to be about, with a whole magical overlay on the entire thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, for sure. That excites me. I just love that kind of stuff. So when you say that it goes to like to the Mayans and things, so is there time travel involved or is it a look back?
No, it's a look back. Yeah. So there's no time travel that I can tell you about. Okay.
Oh,
So I can tell you that in the origins of the Veil, it takes place in Atlantis. So it takes place in 14,000 BCE on the continent of Atlantis. And Atlantis and Lemuria, which are two fabled continents that sunk at the same time, back when Greece was barely even a name, never mind a country. Um, the veil was developed to protect Gaia from the elemental entities. So the entities, of course, are air, earth, fire, and water, and the void. So the will, if you can call the will God if you want to, I don't call it God. The will is the will. It's not a cognizant being that looks after everybody. It has a sense of Gaia is its own creation, and it wants to protect it. And on Gaia, of course, is all the flora and fauna. The elemental entities helped the will to build Gaia, but the elemental entities are, in essence, the chaos of everything, right? So they were too powerful, and the will needed to find a way to control it. So it caused the veil to be produced by for lack of a better term, the humankind beings that lived on Earth. Not just humans, but there was also the Polarians and the Hyperboreans. They were the two builders of the Earth as well. Polarians are on the ethereal side, and the Hyperboreans, which, in my way of thinking, are basically fairy folk. So they take on a physical form of whatever it is that they build. So if they build trees, they're tree-like. If they build flowers, they're flower-like. If they're
Oh.
if they build mountains, they're stone-like. So that's what the Hyperboreans are, and so they are mixed in the stories as we go through. Not in a major way in most cases, but they're always there. The Polarians are on the ethereal side, and they look after sort of the everything that we can't see, everything that's on the other side of that plane of existence that goes into the ethereal side. So they look after all that, and you'll see some interplay of them definitely in each of the books. And some of the roles they play are very big, but only in the sense that they can assist how emissaries of the veil develop.
My mind is so blown right now. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say I can't wait to read this. I'm like I am more excited now. I'm just like, what the what? That is, and you know what's really exciting to me is when you're talking, like so we have a really dear friend of ours who is a history professor at UVic, right?
Right.
And if you chat with him about anything history, because it is so in him to know it,
Mm-hmm.
he speaks. It reminded me that I was just talking to him and he was talking to me about something that had happened because you know this so well because it feels to me like when you're talking about this, you are explaining a true history, not a novel that has poured out of you. And I love that because I love when, well, I love it. I love that you know these people and this land, and you're not having to struggle. This is in you. This
Yes.
is it deep, deep. So how long has this been percolating?
Well, you know, in terms of an actual world and how I visioned it and everything else, um, honestly, probably since I was about 12 years old, this world has been percolating inside me. But even before that, I had the like I was sure I when I was 3 to 9 years old, I was sure I saw fairies and elves and leprechauns in shadow, right? Like you go, oh, I'm pretty sure I saw something over there, and I would tell my mom that, right? And she would say, oh yeah, that's nice, dear. But so like for me, it's not fantasy. It's kind of part of who I am. So
Right.
I'm not saying that it's real for everyone, but for me, in my cognitive pattern of behavior, it's real for me. So I see it that magic is everywhere. It's just that unfortunately we tend to not be able to see it anymore because we're overcome by all the events that go on around us.
Right.
So yeah, but the world itself, yeah, since I've been about 12, and I've wanted to write. I started doing things in high school where I would write a couple pages, and it didn't feel right, so I put it away. And like many people in the world, I am neurodiverse, so I've got Tourette's and I've got ADHD. So I would get a concept, but as soon as I started writing the concept, five other concepts would come in behind me and push
Yes.
those out of the way. And then I couldn't find a way to organize my brain to be able to put it onto paper. So when I retired in 2018, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write this book because I had the idea of the book, and I had built a miniature war game rule set called Inept. And Inept is International Extraterrestrial Paranormal Tactical Teams. And the idea is you got these super elite human soldiers or special agents that go around and look after paranormal and alien incursions. And that's sort of my near future or today concept of the Order of the Veil. And so I made that game, and it's actually been quite popular. I've probably sold about 250 to 400 copies of it, and people that play the game really like it because it's you can expand into anything. So I decided, okay, I'm going to write the Order of the Veil. Where do I want to start? So I had a concept of a team in mind of who I wanted to use, and some of them are loosely linked to people in my life, but only loosely. And then I ended up finding an excellent artist on Instagram. Her name's Amelia. I put her credentials in the book itself, and she did the front cover art and the back cover art. So
Right.
she did my party and the beast, and she's just an amazing artist. And she did this for me. So like, I got out in 2018. I started writing the book in fits and starts, right? Like 2 pages here, and then a couple pages later, and I never really got anything going. And then in 2020, I think it was, I talked to Amelia, and she did the artwork for me, and that really started to solidify that I had to do this. And so it's taken me a while to get there, because ADHD and Tourette's has its own effect. And
Yes.
I ended up getting closer and closer. And the closer I got, the more I knew I had to finish the story. So, but the other thing is, and I'm sure you can relate, as I'm starting to get this story moving more and more, I can feel these characters growing, right? So that's why I have to write 4 or 5 books on these guys, because these guys and girls have grown into people in my brain. They are
Yes.
not just words
Yes.
on a page; they are real, and they want more time. They want me to explain some of their stories. So I'm doing that. That's I've already got about 150 pages done in the second book. So I'm hoping to have that out if everything goes well, maybe April. And then I've got another book after that, which will follow on. Hopefully this year, maybe not. It depends, because I've also got a horror novel that I'm working on.
A
So
witch?
a horror novel.
Oh, horror. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
Oh, how
yeah.
fabulous. When you're talking, it's so funny. I relate to this so much because I too, from a very, very young age, I had experiences. I had conversations, I had visions, I had things that I saw. I continue to have them as an adult. And I also have a wiring of my brain in a particular way, even pre-accident.
Yeah,
That is, because when I look at your Facebook page,
yeah.
it reminds me of mine because there is always about 7 things on the go. And people, and so if I ever stop and think about it, it kind of freaks me out a little bit
Right.
because people will say to me, "How do you do all of those things?" And I'm like, then I stop, right? And I go, "Oh, right, is that kind of weird or something?" But I can't be another way.
Yeah. I'm.
I've got these things that are happening all the time in my head,
Yeah.
and so I stop for a while and I did it, and I do on one and then squirrel, and then but now I find for me, and I wonder about if it's the same with you. It's like um I'm kind of at the place now where I'm understanding how I'm wired enough that I go, you really have to finish this. This one has to come to completion, and that matters,
Yeah.
and you're going to do it. And I've done that with some of, in my educational, I mean, my first however many years of education went ping, 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 and I didn't finish things till I centered. I was like, okay, if it feels like it's going to kill you, but it's not,
Yeah.
and you're going to do this thing till it's done. And I love that you already have your next squirrels are all part of this squirrel. How wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. You could say I have my squirrels in a row or a
You
basket.
do. Yeah, your squirrels they're playing nicely together, and it's so wonderful when that
Yeah.
happens.
I
It's
know. I think you and I have a lot of echoes in our lives, the
yeah.
patterns in our life, because what you described, it feels very much where I have gotten to. It's taken me a while to understand how to deal with the squirrels, and
Yeah.
and yeah, I have really found that no, I got to get this done. It's because if I start moving away, like I started really getting into doing my horror novel before I had fully finished the Order of the Veil book one,
Yeah.
and the whole time I'm working on the horror novel, my brain is going, stop, you've got this in your head, you got to get this done. And so it was distracting. So I went back and I finished the Order of the Veil, and it was funny because after I finished the Beast of Skoder, I needed about 2 weeks to just do nothing because I was mentally exhausted. I didn't know
Yes.
I was exhausted until I was done. But as soon as I hit publish on Lulu, my whole brain just kind of went boom.
Right, because it's so much.
Yeah,
And with yours with characters, I remember like the first three books I was involved in, I was a co-author. So it was not really it's a chapter,
right,
right? It's a chapter in a book, like so that, and the next one that I did that was my own book, it was like, I almost quit before the finish line. I was just like, oh my gosh. But then, then all these other things, I love that. And my new books are children's books. And so I'm falling in love with these little characters and they're little
right.
short, tiny wee books, right? I mean, they're like, look at him doing it like this. But if I have an artist that I have an artist and I tell them how I'd like it and they send me something back, I'm going to say this. Oh, forgive me. I look at it, I'm like, Haywood would never do that. That's not how they would even look. Have you even read my book? Like, how can you think they would look like that? Never in a million years. And it's so funny because, like, you know them.
Yeah.
That's not what they would do.
Well, exactly, and they do. They have their own personalities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because I don't feel like I have any control of them anymore. Right? They do what they're going to do, and I'm just the person taking them and putting it on paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I looked, I went online and I was just, there's this where I can get this little, a little sneak peek.
Right.
I forget what it's called. You go online and you can see a book, like the first bit of it, a little
Right. Yeah.
wee bit of it. And so the first part of your book, or what it was showing me, was done very much like something that was like the artwork looks like it's hundreds of years old, and the print of it, and that was telling me about introducing me
Right.
to some of the, I almost don't want to say characters now that I've been talking to you. See, I would have just said characters,
Yeah.
but now
The personalities.
yeah, part of this community of people.
Yeah.
I was just because it just seems so funny. So, but then I could. It doesn't where I was. It didn't take me much far past that. So I don't know. Is the book written in that type of print that has that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. So the what I used for the character introductions, for lack of a better term, like the personality introductions,
Yeah.
it's all the main characters. So the main seven that are in the book, and I used Garamond font italicized. So Garamond's a really good one for any kind of print, right? And italicized just gives it that older feel.
Yeah.
And the pictures all come off of the drawing that Amelia did for me, and I wanted her to do it in the old sketch form.
Yeah.
And like I said, she's a brilliant artist, right? I've got her both of the original art are mine. Like she did them for me, so their
You
copyright
commissioned them. Yeah.
is mine. Yeah, and like they're just brilliant. So all I did with that picture that you saw, or the pictures, I just took small photos of each of the characters and then I put them in there. And so that's off the cover art. So that's the party,
Beautiful.
and then each one has their own picture there with a little blurb on who they are, so that people sort of know who they're dealing with right from the outset.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good idea. That was really well known because sometimes and now sadly reading is something that's really hard for me now, but but when we get into these books that are very complex and lots of movers and shakers and pieces here and pieces there, sometimes I found before I would be somewhere and I'm like, what? Who is this person? Then I have to go back and try to see, and then I'm like, okay, no, I haven't met them before. And
Right,
I've seen that. But here, I liked that you did that because then I have an idea of who they are.
right,
I like that I have an idea of a little bit of how they look. I
yeah,
liked that. That'll be great for the movies. But I go, I I can't stop myself. Okay, this is how I think.
Yeah,
But I now, but throughout the book is what print is that where or what font?
Garamond font. Yeah.
All
Throughout the
through
book.
the book.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I stuck with Garamond. I just didn't italicize it all.
okay. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So that makes it a bit easier to read.
Makes
Yeah.
it easier to read and not quite as tiring on the eyes. But I wanted the character bits to stand out, so that's why I italicized that part.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
I also included a glossary at the end of all the major players in the book. So if you were reading through and you go, "Oh, do I know this person?" You can go to the glossary and go, "Oh, yes, okay, I remember that."
Right.
Because a couple of my beta readers said you got quite a few characters in the story, and that's not a bad thing. Like, it doesn't draw away; it actually adds depth. But
Yeah.
I lost who was who sometimes, so I added the glossary in on their advice.
Oh, that's awesome when someone is able to be able to give you that kind of input because especially when there's so many moving parts
Yeah, yeah.
and so many players, it's that. So now here's something so I'm just gonna put the book there for a moment if
Okay.
we can just put that there and go over to the gaming part because I'm going to tell you that as a person who I was just I never understood that your Taylor Wargaming thing,
Yeah.
that is a game you created?
Yeah, I've written
What
12
the
different books.
what?
Yeah. I've got 12 different publications for wargaming. Yeah.
Okay, so in my mind, I would go, I was always looking at them. It was fascinating to me to see them, but I thought those were models you were making and painting. I did not understand that this was actual, that you made a game.
So here's one. You see that?
Yes, Ghost Hunter.
Yeah. So that's one of my books. Here's the
What?
inept. Here's inept 2. And this is a scenario book for
Sean, you're
my World
blowing
War
my
One game.
mind right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that, I mean, this was what keeps me out of jail.
That's awesome. I honestly thought okay, so here's in my mind how much in my mind there was like a room in your basement that had a big table with you do.
Yes,
You
it's all
do. There
miniature
is a
wargaming.
village and a town there.
Yep. And that's just a little bit of it, right? Like, if you come, I'll bring you down here. Look.
Oh, I love this. And this
Yeah.
is and so this is and you've built all these things.
Yeah. And of course I paint miniatures. So there's a few miniatures that are waiting to go on the painting table. So I've got all kinds of stuff in here, and miniatures ranging from like, there's some of that's my scriptorium.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've got a collection of, I'd hazard a guess at maybe 70,000 miniatures.
And you've built these things, you paint them, and then you create a game with them.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then from the games, you've also created, so just I'm meaning this as a question. So
Yeah.
if it comes out like a statement, it is not intended to be that way.
Yeah.
So my understanding then is so you made all these miniatures and these towns and these places and all of this stuff, and then you created games with them, and then
Yeah.
you have these books, and people can then, I don't, well, I'll wait. That's kind of a question I'll ask now, but I'll kind of wait. So then they can make their own collection of these miniatures, or they can.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what you do.
That's
So my most famous or my most popular rule set is called Great War Spearhead, and it's about World War One wargaming. So you can recreate battles. And one of the things that I got to do was I was at Vimy in 2017 for the 100th commemorative. I
right.
went to the Canadian War Museum, and myself and a friend of mine, the guy who's a co-author of some of my Great War Spearhead books, Robert Dunlop, we put on Vimy Ridge at the Canadian War Museum. So we were the showpiece at the museum for the 100th commemorative. So it was pretty cool. And
I do recall something about this, and I have memory stuff, but I don't think I fully understood what the heck was. This is interesting to me because Dave, my husband,
yeah.
who his introduction to his military career was he spent his most of his teen years until he entered the military at like 18,
Yeah.
doing Civil War reenactments. He
Oh,
traveled
cool.
all through the states, and he knows more he knows more about the Civil War than I think most Americans, and maybe I'm shooting too high there, but understands all of these. So this is very interesting to me
Yeah.
because and people who understand, the different aspects of it, and it makes sense. You had a career in understanding this at a different level than the average person, probably. It was your so this is amazing. Okay, so now so then the games, do you have a game that's part of the book?
Um, I am actually so inept. Like I mentioned earlier, that inept was actually it was basically my version of the Order of the Veil in modern times. But I didn't call it the Order of the Veil because the Order of the Veil came to me in the last 8 years.
Right.
So I wrote Inept about 12 or 14 years ago, all under the concept of the Order of the Veil and the world that I was making in my head since 12. But I didn't call it Order of the Veil because I didn't know that's what it was going to be yet. That grew into its own entity as I moved along. So Inept is actually going to be put on the shelf, and I am redoing the rules, and I'm doing a game. You've heard of Dungeons and Dragons? It's a role
Yeah, I've
playing
never
game, right?
played it, but I've heard of it for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So I am doing a role playing game based on the Order of the Veil, and that's what it's going to be called. So you can take characters either from the books, or you can make your own characters, and you can go out there and take on the missions that are either in the books or that you want to make up yourself.
Okay, so if a person was going to, would it matter the order someone did this? Would there be a benefit to a person to read the book first and then play the game, or would it matter? Could it
It
be
it actually, just thinking of it in general terms, it wouldn't really matter as long as you had an interest in what you were doing, right?
right?
So like for example, Dungeons and Dragons, you don't have to read every fantasy book out there to understand Dungeons and Dragons. But if you have a love for fantasy worlds that have dragons and wizards and stuff like that, then Dungeons and Dragons is an easy fit. And it's the same thing here. So if you have sort of a love of our own world with an overlay of magic and occult and arcane and even alien and things like that, then you could just jump right into the RPG. Reading the books will just give you so much more depth as to why things are a
Right.
certain way.
Wow,
Yeah.
this is oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This is I'm loving this. I don't know what I thought we were going to be talking about today, but this is so interesting to me, Shawn. This is just wow. I love this. I need to get your book, and I got to figure out, I might have to, what I might need to do. Have you yet created the audio
I have
version of
not done an audio yet. No, people are already asking me if I'm going to do that, and to be honest, I hadn't even thought of it because my own publishing experience is all by spiral bound paper copy and electronic.
it?
So
Right.
I've never, war game rules you wouldn't put into an audio book because or at least I've never heard of it. But I mean, that's definitely something that I should probably give thought to.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've already I've already paid for my audio version of my book. I've already paid to do it, but I just, squirrel, right? Like I
Yeah.
just haven't done it yet. So I've been, but here's what I've been told by some people. I don't read. You need to make an audio version.
Right.
Straight out, that's what they've told me. And especially for me, who's now, the short story is in my accident, my occipital lobe was yada dat dated. And
Right.
so when I try to read, I do great on Facebook or something because it's a paragraph.
Right.
And I'm great with paragraphs. But I get a whole page and it becomes very distorted and things move around and
Oh, okay.
it gets a little bit funny. So I loved reading before. I loved it, and it's just so but I'm not giving up because because I'm just not giving up. So I'm saying that because I'm very selfish and I would like the book and I'm not sure if I can read it or not.
Right.
Oh, so I'll get the book and I'll try to read it. I'll have to do it with paper in my hand. Some people just love Kindles and stuff like that.
Right.
I like paper in my hand. I like to feel it. That means a lot to me to do that.
Me
So I
too.
can't
Yeah.
wait. I'm going to give it my best college try.
Well, I mean, you've just given me another shot to go on the audio side, but I have had people say to me, look, if you put it on audiobook, that'd be really good because then I can sit there painting my miniatures,
Yes.
and I can listen to the book as I paint.
I can go for a walk and listen to
Yeah.
the book. I can drive up to to go to Calgary and visit family, and I can have the book the whole time. And
Yeah.
it's just it's really it's awesome to be able to do that. Even if it's just I listen to one chapter on a walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how many chapters there are, but within a or certainly within, some weeks or a month, I'm going to
Mhm.
get that book under my belt.
Well, yeah. I mean, the chapters are, I can't even remember how many there are. I think there's 33 chapters and then an epilogue. But some of the chapters are only like a page. So
Yeah.
I sort of followed, I really like Dan Brown's methodology of how
Okay.
his books flow. So sometimes he'll have a chapter that's like one paragraph because he wants you to get going, right? And so in some ways I do that, and some of my chapters, of course, are quite lengthy because there's a needed story to be told in that
Right.
chapter. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Isn't that lovely to do those little throw out for us whose brains work in a certain way? Long chapters are torturous for me. It doesn't. It just. I feel like crying. Even if I love what I'm reading, it has never mattered.
yeah.
I just need to get there. And so to know that there's, I might even peek ahead and say, oh, okay, I have some short chapters coming up, and it gives me people who don't understand, and
Yeah.
people who do go, I completely get what you're talking about.
And
So
I completely get what you're talking about because I'm the same.
yeah, but sometimes we just need them. Well, this is exciting.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the time when people start to not listen anymore. So I have to, so the powers that be tell me to keep it around 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I would be so happy to have you on again and we can chat more. But for today, so it is The Beast of Shkoder, The Order of the Veil, Book One. Where can they get your book?
You right now you can get my book through print at lulu.com. You just search Taylor Wargaming Publications. Um, I just got my proof copies for the distribution through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the big companies. But
Okay.
I've approved it. They now have to approve it. So that's probably going to be sometime next week.
Okay.
You can also get the electronic version, the ebook, on Kindle through Amazon or Barnes and Noble, all the big ones, Everread, all the rest of the major ebook publishers. It's available on all those. Locally, I will have print copies if people want them, and I'm happy to sign them. The publications that you get through Amazon and is a little bit more expensive than what you get through Lulu, but the reach, of course, is incredible. So
the reach is farther, and I can tell you what I was taught in my little circle of people in authors is the reason you want your book to go to #1 bestseller in Amazon, and it's not that difficult to do on the one day, the opening day,
right,
because that can help you going forward. So that's another thing about Amazon is if you've ever even for an hour reached seller status, and you can claim that going forward. They
Nice.
tell me it matters. Shawn, this is awesome. I can't wait to read this book. And in the show notes, all your contact information will be there for folks that would like to get a hold of you. I could sit here for hours and listen to this. This is so fascinating to me. Thank you so much for taking time out of chasing squirrels and hanging out with me for a bit today.
Thank you too, Yali. I really appreciate that you reached out and said, would you like to do this? And it's, I consider it a huge favor to me from you to even reach out. So I really appreciate that. So thanks very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's just been great. I can't wait to read this book. Well, for now, this is Allie and Find Your Joy. Thanks for all of you for hanging out and listening and learning all about Shawn's new book. It's going to be great. Go out and grab a copy. Now Christmas has passed, but okay, that doesn't matter. There's other reasons to give books to people and to read them for yourself. Shawn, thanks so much. Do remember to like and subscribe, and thanks for hanging out with us today. And as always, find your joy. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you found a piece of your joy in this episode, I would love to hear about what came up for you so that we can continue to grow the impact of this show. Thanks again. See you soon. And remember, find your joy.